All right, party people, so you probably are done with your enclosure one. Maybe you did the self-check, and we're just going to chat briefly about something I mentioned about adding some stay tabs in here. So sometimes you don't want to rely fully on like a circuit board weak point, like this edge here, or the solder joints on the plug to a circuit board. You don't want to rely on them to hold your case and your actual circuit board together. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to show you how to create some simple stay tabs for your circuit board, especially if you have little notches right here, and some of you did some really awesome work to make sure they're included and they match up. We're gonna talk about using them. So once you have enclosure one ready and you have your bottom case, you can turn off the cap because we don't need that right away. We can go ahead and make a sketch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the PCB and I'm going to make a new sketch on this bottom inside surface of our bottom enclosure part here. If I click this, I can start making a sketch, and what I actually want to do is turn our PCB back on, because what I'm going to do is use our Snoopy friend here, offset or O, and I'm going to create an offset of these three lines. Now the lines are offset way outside of where we want them to be. We actually want them to be on the inside here, and I'm going to click and drag it until I can see them inside of there. Now right now they're set at a distance of 0.3 millimeters away from these lines. That's fine. They're inside where we kind of want them to be. I'm going to hit OK or enter on my keyboard and hit enter again because I don't know exactly what's going on yet. The thing that we need to figure out before we can determine what number this needs to be is I need to get a dimension for this vertical, line right here. Right now it's 0.65 and I just hit enter, it's grayed out. It's not something I can edit because that dimension is driven by this number right here. If I take this number and I look at this number, we are starting to get really, really, really tiny. Now what I should be able to do, again, if you've perfectly matched things up with your USB and the self-check, is I should be able to take this number that's 0.3 and I want this number to be 0.7. So I can hopefully take this 0.3 number, and if I do 0.25, what'll actually happen is it'll increase this number right here. The reason I want this to be a little bit bigger is because we're starting to breach the bounds of the 3D printer. When it gets tiny, really tiny, sometimes things don't print. We have this line, but it's not actually connected to our case yet. So what we can do is if we hop up underneath of our scissor tool, we can use the extend tool and I can say, hey, this line needs to extend out this way. What you'll notice is things will go on forever. We don't totally want that. We want to be able to draw up until this line. In order to get this line to exist, we're going to use the use project tool, cube next to A. We're going to create that line. Now we can go back to our extend tool and extend up to that line. Once we get that, we should hopefully have an enclosed shape here. So if we mouse over, I just hit escape and then I'm mousing over, I do have a rectangle there. That works well for us. I am, just to make things nice, I'm going to hit the trim tool. I'm going to trim away this top line and this bottom line here. They're kind of hard to see because of the case itself. Now we have this rectangle. What we need to do next is make sure we have one of these over on the other side. Easy way to do that, line, construction, so LQ, make a line at our midpoint here, and then we can just mirror our rectangle that we made right here across to the other side. So I just selected my mirror line first, select all four of those, and then now I'm going to rename this sketch PCB stays. You can call it like pinchers, whatever you want. There's really no good name for them, but again, they match up with our notch. They're not extruded yet because we have to go ahead and extrude them. Now, one easy way to extrude things, especially when we're looking at something like this, I'm going to turn off the bottom enclosure. I'm going to create a new extrusion, and I'll select these two rectangles. I'm going to turn on bottom enclosure again, and then I'm just going to say up to face, and I'm going to make them an add, and the face that we're going to go up to is right here. Now you have two stays. The biggest thing that we want to check, and I believe with this example we're going to be okay with, is that this dimension right here is roughly 12 millimeters. Now we can do that in our drawing view. If we create a drawing of this part studio, we can go ahead and make sure that that dimension is the 12 that we need. Whoops, delete. We want to create a drawing, if it lets me create a drawing. And no views is okay. You should be back up. Yeah, up here, one more. Let's go. Move to parent folder. And we're going to do our basic enclosure V1. We want the whole part studio. We want to look at it from the top. And if we wanted to do, say, like a self-check, we wanted to do it 1-to-1. If I click that in there, oh, you know what? I need to insert, not the part studio, excuse me, but just the part, because it has the cap on it. Hit top, click it on in there, and that doesn't help us. Let's just delete this for a moment. Create a drawing. No views. Okay. My computer sounds like it wants to take off, which is fine. And once we get it to load, we should be able to insert enclosure 1 as a full part studio. Enclosure 1. Let's make sure we're 1-to-1. Top. Click. And now we can actually do this quick self-check right here, where we want to see the distance from this line to this line. And it looks like our drawing units are in inches, so we're going to flip that back to millimeters. And 12.8 is more than enough. We want it to be 12, that's the USB standard, so a little round up is fine to 13. This piece may not be flush to our computer when we plug it in, which is totally cool. A little bit of flexibility is great. So once you have that, you're going to be good to go in terms of like making sure you have definitely a secure USB. If for some reason in the 3D printing process this doesn't fit, then we may need to edit our dimensions a little bit, but that is just a brief overview of how to add some notch stays into your USB PCB basic enclosure. Alrighty, catch you later.